What's going on, guys? I'm Jordan Jareb. This is the Jordan Jareb experience. I often get asked about like criminal justice reform. You know, in Florida, there's a lot of talk about like 65%, stuff like that. I get a lot of comments asking me about that, and I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about that in the most honest, nuanced way possible, right? And I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but I had to be ready to make it. I had to make sure I had somewhat of a clear head before I made this video. The thing about criminal justice reform, and think about like 65%, things like that, you have to have an inmate population that is ready for that. You have to have an inmate population that is actually wanting to change, wanting to improve, right? And so I know that because I've been to prison and because I'm a prison YouTuber. I never wanted to be a prison YouTuber, by the way. I never wanted to be like JD DeLay or Wes Watson or Jumpsuit Pablo or any of these guys. Like, that was never my goal, right? I'm a survivalist and a prepper, first and foremost. I didn't want to become a prison tuber, but people are fascinated by things that I have to say about prison, right? And so what I can honestly tell you, what I can honestly 100% tell you is prison reform is needed 100%, and I am in many ways pro-inmate, especially when the inmates are right, 100%. When the inmates are right about something, I'm pro-inmate 100%, because I used to be an inmate, right? So as a former inmate, I'm pro-inmate when the inmates are right. When the inmates are correct, I'm pro-inmate. That being said, and I know this is going to be controversial, and I know this is going to be a letdown to a lot of people that are wanting criminal justice reform. A lot of other ex-convicts are going to be a little bit upset by the fact that I said it, but I need to be as brutally honest as possible. I need to be as brutally honest as possible about this issue. Criminal justice reform in the current state of the Florida Department of Corrections, and many of these state correctional institutions, it can't be done the way the liberals want it. It can't. Right? Like the way the liberals want it to be done is going to be a disaster, it's going to be a failure. It can't be done that way. Right? Now, should there be like a 65% legislation? Right? Yes, there should be a path to people getting out of prison earlier. I 100% agree with that. There's a lot of people that are just taking up space, that have basically paid their debt to society, that don't need to be there, they've been there too long, and they need a chance to reintegrate into society. Right? But the way the Florida Department of Corrections works, the way a lot of these state prisons work, you know, I honestly think that there needs to be some overhaul to like how these facilities are run. You know, and I'm not like a social scientist or a psychologist, even though, you know, my grandfather was a psychologist. My mom has a degree in psychiatry. I know a little bit about psychology, right? I find psychology to be a fascinating subject, but I think the biggest obstacle to criminal justice reform, you guys have asked me about over and over again now, what do you think of criminal justice reform? Obviously I'm for it. I mean, duh. This is like a no-brainer. This is the simplest issue ever. Of course we need criminal justice reform. Of course people need a chance to reintegrate into society and be productive citizens, right? But I'm going to tell you what happens in these facilities, right? Somebody like a state legislature member, like a member of Congress or a state legislature or somebody important is going to walk through these facilities, and what are they going to see? If you walk through these facilities, you'll find that the men are like masturbating in public. It's called gunning. It's literally called gunning, right? So you have this absurd, crazy behavior happening in the middle of the dorm. Some guy, if a outside visitor comes, and the corrections officers will tell you, bro, like, they're going to be in the middle of the dorm masturbating in public, like with their thing out and everything, right? Just standing in the middle of the dorm, do it. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's very common, and I don't want to get too radioactive, politically incorrect, but it's very common amongst a certain demographic of inmate. I'll give you a hint. The white inmates and the Hispanic inmates don't typically do this behavior, right? Just being honest, I know it's politically incorrect, but I'm just being brutally honest. Like, we don't see this from white inmates or Hispanic inmates. It's a particular group of inmates demographically known for this behavior, right? Just being honest. But it isn't just that. It is a lot of other things. There's the people that yell across the rec yard, hey yo, Big C say put that 30 on the Cash App. You know, yelling shit across the rec yard. That shit's annoying. You know what I mean? And then every single person, like, having to hold the line up so they can, like, this is the reason it takes all day for guards to run chow. And this is the reason, like, inmates don't get to canteen. Because every single person is trying to slow down the line to pass some message across, right? And then every single, like, I'm not going to say every single inmate, but many, many inmates want to be treated like special snowflakes, right? And so they want to clog up medical. They want to clog up the grievance procedures. They want to, like, you have a lot of people clogging the system up with their special snowflake problems, right? And then you have a lot of inmates that just kind of do their time and mind their own fucking business, and you know, they miss out on a lot of the basic shit they're entitled to. So a jacket that actually buttons up properly or whatever, like, they're less like the better inmates that just mind their own business are less likely to get shit. So what happens is you incentivize very shitty behavior. That's what Florida Department of Corrections has done, unfortunately. I can't really speak for, like, the woman's side. I can only speak for the men's side. You'd have to ask Nicole about, you know, because she was in the woman's side. But in the men's side, I know 100%, like, you had, like, the 10% of inmates that caused 80% of the problems, right? And this is just a fact. You got 10% of the inmates that cause 80% of the problems, right? And you've got a broken system. You got a system that's structured more for, like, convenience of the guards, and there's not enough oversight, and there's not enough understanding of incentives and the incentives you're creating, and there's not enough human intelligence to understand what's happening on the ground in there, right? So, and there's not enough, the problem is the current administration of the Florida Department of Corrections doesn't really care. I'm just being honest. The current admins, the current people up top, they need to be replaced, okay? And I'm probably putting myself in a little bit of the microscope, probably kind of putting myself in harm's way by saying this, right? Because, I mean, like, that's not, you know, I've pissed off a couple of powerful people by saying that, and I hope you guys realize that, but it needs to be said. I don't think I'm going to die or anything, but I've pissed off a couple higher up powerful people by saying this, but it needed to be said anyway. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to die or anything because of it, but I want you guys to know I'm putting myself at risk to some extent by speaking truth to power here, because it's easy for me to get in front of this camera and be like, oh, the admins, the administration, they're good people. They're just kind of overwhelmed. No, the administration is not good people, okay? I'm telling you, most of the admins, and I'm not even going to say all of them, but most of the admins that work for the Florida Department of Corrections are not good people, and they want to run this shit like a business, and their only goal is to make as much money as possible, right? It's their only goal. They want to make as much money as possible, and they want to make it not cost anything, right? 65% or something similar, some kind of gain time, some type of gain time thing to where they get out earlier. I think that's great, 100%. I think that we need shit like that, 100%. And the reason we need shit like that is because it frees up space and it cuts out on overcrowding, understaffing. It makes the facilities less dangerous. And if the facilities are less crowded and less dangerous, and you're actually able to run the facilities properly, then rehabilitation becomes more realistic, right? These facilities are hot, they're sweaty, they're miserable. There's no air conditioning in these facilities. You can't rehabilitate yourself under those conditions. It's the 21st century, right? Like, there's no reason our public infrastructure, our public government buildings can't have air conditioning. That's ridiculous. That's insane. That's an old way of thinking that I think the majority of us have moved on from, and it's just counterintuitive to getting these guys out and having them productive citizens. They've done studies. They say that the violence goes up when it's hot in there, right? The wintertime, any CO will tell you there's less violence during the wintertime because it's colder. It gets hot in there. It gets sweaty in there. It gets miserable in there. Quite frankly, it's hard to focus and do good things in there when you're that hot, sweaty, and miserable. Not to mention, people have died of heat stroke. People have died of heat stroke in there. So it's not in the public interest to keep running these facilities the way they're being run. Like, something has to be done. That being said, the inmates have also created, like I said earlier, a lot of their own problems, right? The inmates have created, we have this very pervasive culture among what sociologists would probably call the underclass, what Marxists would probably call the proletariat, right? Whatever we want to call them, the lower classes have very, and this is the topic for a different video, like we could go into this in another video, the lower classes of society have some very self-defeating belief systems, and I don't get it. Quite frankly, a lot of this shit doesn't make sense. A lot of the nihilism and just I don't get the gangsta mentality. I don't understand what it's doing for them. They're all telling on each other. They're all snitching on each other. They're getting tons of time in prison. They're committing crimes in broad daylight, not even wearing masks and shit. I don't understand the gangsta subculture. It seems like a mental illness thing to me. It seems like a mass mental illness. All these people that want to be gangsters. That's what it looks like to me. Very few real gangsters are out here anymore. It seems like a bunch of mental patients to me. That's just my opinion. But even so, that doesn't stop it from being dangerous. That doesn't stop it from being violent. It's just not effective at actually getting these people money and getting them a retirement plan. You know, I mean, if I was going to make money doing illegal stuff, I would want to know that it's a lot of money and that there's like a real retirement plan, and that I'd be able to like make the tax information look correct. I'd want to be able to like wash the money, launder the money, and be able to retire forever, right? That's not what these gangsters are doing, right? That's not what these gangbangers are doing. So, I mean, they know there's drones up in the air the police can use. They know there's even robotic dogs and shit. The police have all types of shit. 360 degree AVRs in their car. You got drones. You got robotic dogs. You got real dogs. You got inflated police budgets through asset forfeiture, where the very people that say, fuck the police, are the very people funding the police because they confiscate all the profits of their illegal activities, asset forfeiture, and they give it straight to the police. So the very people screaming, fuck the police, are actually giving shit to the police. Isn't that funny? You say, fuck the police, well, through asset forfeiture, you're the one that's financing the police, right? And so again, that's a subject for another video. I think it's a psychological warfare thing the rich and powerful have done to the underclass to convince them to just fuck up forever, to keep them down. That's what I think. Me personally, that's my opinion, but that's a subject for another video. But this kind of mindset that we've given like the underclass, for better or for worse, it's definitely, for obvious reasons, pervasive in the Florida prison system, and it wreaks havoc in there, absolutely. It is the opposite of rehabilitation. So we have been, particularly the underclass, and it's pushed through popular culture, media, music, stuff like that, the underclass has been sort of taught that being smart, having virtues, believing in something greater than yourself, culture, tradition, all these things are just evil, right? So like the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, that's some cracker shit. Oh, virtue and honor and being smart, being educated, reading books, discipline, honor, virtue, family, like all these things to the sort of gangsta mentality people. Some of those things like family, okay, they have a very vague and nebulous appreciation for, but for the most part, their knee-jerk reaction to all those things that make civilization possible is that that's some cracker shit, right? So basically, they don't, these people don't have any hobbies, they don't have any interests, they don't have any, I guess the only hobbies they have, some of them know how to make tattoos, some of them, the only hobbies they have, the only interests they have are in the furtherance of criminal activities and gang-related stuff that's tightly controlled, regulated, monitored in the free world, but in prison they're locked behind a fence and nobody really gives a shit. So they're in an environment where they can just do this shit all day and nobody really cares. And they really think they're somebody like, yeah, I run this yard. look at me, I'm the shot caller on this yard. And it's like, bro, like, okay, congratulations, you run the yard until they put you in cuffs and then put you in confinement. So, I mean, the state controls every aspect of your life. They make you make your bed in the morning, but you're bragging about you're a shot caller on the yard. They wake you up at 7:30, they turn your lights on, they say, inspection, and then that bed's going to be made. And then, but you want to run around talking about, I'm the shot caller on this yard. What's the point? I'm trying to figure out when does this, like, I'm trying to figure out when the gang member people, that the kind of wannabe anti-government types in prison that I've met, I'm trying to figure out when they're going to start winning. Because, like, they're not winning anything right now. And so, like, my message, if there's anybody watching this on, say, a contraband cell phone, if there's any, and I know a couple of inmates that watch these videos, right? If you're in prison right now, guys, I don't want you getting hurt, right? But if you could inject into the framework, like just speak this shit into existence on the yard, go out and tell the brothers in the yard, be like, hey, this being a gangster shit really ain't working for us. Let's like act like a legitimate group of people and let's express our interests in a way that's not totally retarded. Like inmates need better PR. They need better public relations, right? There needs to be less focus on commerce. I got so much food in my locker. I'm a gangster. Look how much money I got. It's like, bro, you're in prison. You got some Pop-Tarts and some soups in your locker. It doesn't matter. You're in prison. You have no real power if you're in prison. Even if you could order hits on the street, it doesn't matter. You're in prison. Your freedom has been taken from you by the state. What's the point? What's the point of any power you have? Any power you have is really an illusion because you're in fucking prison, right? And so inmates need to get out of the mentality of power, money, hustling, gangsta culture, bullshit. Inmates got to get out of that mentality because it's poisonous and it's what the system uses to keep them down, right? So it's the crabs in a bucket thing. It's everybody chasing money, trying to hustle, trying to make things happen. And realistically, their real path to freedom is, I mean, there's only two real paths to freedom, bro. You're either going to get everybody to riot at the same time, which I'm not suggesting you do, or you're going to get everybody to just kind of cooperate and get along and go with the, you know, what I would do is I would get the guards to see a change in behavior, and then I would write the media, write newspapers and stuff and say, look, we've been behaving ourselves. When's the reform coming? When are the classes coming? When are the college degrees coming? We've behaved ourselves. There's only been 2 stabbings this year. That type of shit. If you, like, inmates could police their behavior and stop acting so retarded. Like, case in point, Exhibit A, bro, the gunning shit. When a state representative walks through your facility, why the fuck is there a guy with his dick in the hand in the middle of the dorm? Why the fuck is there an inmate with his dick in his hand when a state official is walking through the dorm in Florida Department of Corrections? Why aren't the inmates stopping that guy? You have a state official here to investigate whether or not prison reform should be a thing. You know, when they go back, when the legislative assistant goes back to talk with his colleagues, all right, all the other state legislatures about prison reform, they say, what about this prison reform thing? Should we look into it? He says, oh, well, I went to the prison and everybody was out in the open with their penises in their hand on some weird perverted sexual predator shit in the middle of public. Yeah, so again, why aren't the inmates putting down on that guy? Good question. Why are the other inmates like, well, you know, it's really none of my business? It ain't none of your business, bro. When a state official is walking through that facility to go talk to his other state officials about prison reform and 65% and you going home earlier and that shit gets postponed because a motherfucker doesn't want to stop playing with his penis in public? All right. That shit ain't my business, man. Okay. All right. So enjoy doing a couple more years in prison because the guy wants to jerk off in public. It is what it is, bro. But your average inmate in there is so absorbed with the gangsta culture bullshit and the hustling and this and that that they don't even know how, it's not even occurring to them how the legislative branch of government works. They don't even know the 3 branches of government on average. A lot of those guys in there. So again, I want to end this video by saying this. I've been asked about prison reform. Yeah, I've been asked about it. 100%. Am I for it? Sure, I'm for it. It needs to be done in a safe way. It needs to be done in a way that doesn't terrorize the community, right? Your rights as an inmate to reform yourself ends where public safety begins. Public safety is number 1. I don't want old ladies getting their houses home invaded, raped, murdered. I don't want people getting robbed in the street. I don't want dangerous shit like that happening. I want to live in a safe place where businesses can move in, where we can have grocery stores to shop at, where I don't want to live in a place where every business is shutting down because they're shoplifting everywhere. And I don't want to live in a place like that. I want to live in a nice place where I can walk down the street. Oh, look, there's a grocery store. And they can stay in business because not everybody's stealing. Like in California and New York, where all the stores are shutting down and a bag of potato chips costs $15 because motherfuckers can't, a bag of potato chips costs $15 in places like New York because motherfuckers can't stop stealing, right? The prices go up, hurts everybody. It hurts the law-abiding citizens. It hurts the people that pay their taxes and participate in society. So I have to say, yes, I'm in favor of prison reform. Yes, 100%. I want inmates to have the ability to get out earlier if they're behaving themselves, if they're doing something with their life in there. I think people need second chances at life. Everybody deserves a second chance. Well, not everybody, but most people deserve a second chance, right? And I'm all for giving those second chances. But it can't be done at the expense of the tax-paying citizens of the state, right? You can't jeopardize the safety of the taxpayers and still do the prison reform. As much as I'd love to just carte blanche be like, yeah, let all my homeboys out, you know, no, I can't do that, man. I'm not going to do that. I'm not JD Delay. I'm not these other guys on YouTube, bro. I'm not going to sit here and just carte blanche say that we need prison reform, and anything with prison reform instantly gets a thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up. Just let them all out, every single one. Yeah, no. I'm not going to do that. Because some of those people in there need to be in there. I'm telling you as a person that's been in there, some of those people need to stay there. They're dangerous, they're unhinged, and they're right where they belong. And until they can get their shit together, until they can become better people, that's where they need to be. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff. I appreciate it. We are selling these camouflage Hawaiian shirts. They're a big hit on the store. We're going to be putting out some new types of camouflage Hawaiian shirts. It's the perfect combination of gray man theory and tactical combined into one. Introducing the Tribe socks. Yeah, I'm selling my own versions of Tribe socks, guys. So these Tribe socks are every camouflage pattern known to man that I'm selling. So this is called Schmidt-Tech Shamdrake, not to be confused with Cryptek Mandrake for copyright reasons. This is similar, but it's not Cryptek. It's a Schmidt-Tech Shamdrake. So these are the socks that I sell. I'm also selling Schmulticam. I'm also selling Haystacks IX. I'm selling Schwoodland camo. Any camouflage pattern socks you've ever dreamed of having, I've got camouflage patterns. I got Fleck Tarn, which I call Boomer Tarn. Fleck Tarn's not copyright, but I just called it Boomer Tarn anyway. I got every single camouflage pattern you'd possibly want. And if I forgot one, I'll put it on there, guys. Yeah, for real. If I forgot to put a certain pattern on there, rest assured, I will put it on there by request. You request a pattern, I'll put it on there. I'm the only guy on the internet selling a bunch of different types of camouflage socks. I'm the only guy on the internet doing this. I'm the only guy on the internet that has every camouflage pattern tube mask as well. We're selling these tube masks. You see that our martial arts training dummy Bob has a tube mask, which is excellent. I sell good quirky products that, you know, tactical autism people would really like. Make sure to check out the store, guys. I got an amazing selection of edgy t-shirts, camouflage Hawaiian shirts, camouflage socks, so your LARP kit can be complete. If you like a certain pattern and you want socks to match your pattern, if you're that autistic, and I know my audience is full of that people with that type of autism, then make sure to check out the store, you know. So let's say you want every square inch of your body to be multicam. Well, now you can. It's just going to be schmulticam instead of multicam. But it's very similar, but not exactly the same thing for copyright reasons. So guys, thank you for supporting the channel. I love you guys. We love you 100%. Jordan Jareb signing off. See you on the next one.